Welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. I just had a thought about how let me pause and say, depending on when you watch this. So today is the day after the 2021 National Championship game. So last night, Alabama played Ohio State, and they beat them pretty bad. And it was still a good game. I really enjoyed watching it, and it was very fascinating to, number one, watch the game, and then start to watch some of the interviews / analysis of the game. And one of the things that kept coming back over and over and over was Nick Saban's, I guess you would call it, process over product mantra, that the process is the most important thing. And it's funny because I've kind of I came to that same conclusion on my own, just through my own personal growth. But I think it's so valuable, and it's something that we should really, as an education system, should pay attention to. John Maxwell is another person I like to listen to, and he's always referencing John Wooden. I believe he was the at UCLA basketball coach for a long time, one of the best. Considered one of the best basketball coaches, I believe. And I've heard him reference many, many times the same mantra, the idea of, I was always like John Wooden would say, I was always relaxed at the games because we'd already won it in practice. Like the practice, the preparation, the process is really what ultimately determines the result. And this really got my head spinning and thinking a lot about what we do in the education system and how that the whole system is backwards, right? Because everything is about outcome-driven results, right? The tests, the data, the pursuing the grades, right? And the grades, instead of looking underneath and looking at what is the process that we teach kids, what are the habits, what are these skills, and don't get me wrong, like, kids will learn those hopefully by default, but I believe wholeheartedly that, let me phrase it this way. Kids that have people in their life, whether it's parents, whether it's association, whatever, that model those principles to begin with, that hold education at a high value, those kids are going to develop better habits, period. Okay. And so we're always talking about how the education system has to help kids that are in different circumstances, that have different, issues, that are don't have the same. We use the word opportunities all the time, equality, equity, whatever. But what's more equitable than teaching the success skills, right? So if our whole system basically keeps saying outcome, outcome, outcome all the time, it's all about the outcome, and yet we have this model of the Alabama football team who, let's be honest, if I hope I'm not misquoting, but from what I understand, in the last 8 years, or maybe they've been to the national championship 8 times and they've won 6 of them, and somewhere in like the last 12 years or something. So, again, you can fact check me on that. I don't care. I just know that they are considered probably the best, consistently best performing program. And what is the message that keeps coming back? Process, process, process. It doesn't matter if we're up 50-0. You focus on the fundamentals. You focus on the process. You don't make mental mistakes. You don't get lax. Everything's process driven. That's how you get at a high standard. Music is the same idea. Like, you don't play at the highest level without a great process. You can't just magically play the music and hope it's good. You have to have all these skills underneath that you've developed over time that are at a high level. The skills are there. And ultimately, if we're being honest, if we're being intellectually honest and objectively honest, if we preach all the time that we want what's best for kids, well, then we need to have the best process possible, period. And we need to focus on the process, not the outcome, right? But again, lawmakers, all the bureaucracy of the education system, to self-justify itself, it always has to be, well, we've got to prove that this works. We've got to have the data, right? Now, data is important. I absolutely believe in data, but I actually believe more in my ability to see what's in front of me versus data. So for me, also, I should say, data can be manipulated. You can take one little variable out and the data changes, right? I trust my eyes and my intuition much more than data. Now, do I look at data? Do I want data when I'm really trying to wrestle with, okay, what am I really thinking? Yes, I do want to know if things, if the data supports my hypothesis, that supports this idea of process over product. But again, because we are so data driven, I would honestly say that as an education system, we rarely give processes enough time to work the way they should. And then if we don't see the results, the data we want, we automatically say it's not working. But the thing you have to understand, it's the iceberg problem. You're only seeing the tip, right? If the tip at first is only showing you that that data-wise it's not working, but you haven't seen what's going on underneath, you're not giving it time to work. And actually, a better analogy is a tree, right? Or a tree, or any type of plant. It has to grow its roots before it can be strong, right? And those roots you can't see, right? Maybe you see just this tiny thing, but you're expecting it to have grown here in a set amount of time, but you only see the little sapling. But what's going on underneath, right? And basically, let's just kind of end with this. The reason Nick Saban is so oh my gosh, why can't I think of the word? Successful, that's the word, is because he trusts his process 100%. No one is going to go up to him and say, maybe if you did this better, because it's proven. But even if he loses a game, or even if this is, or at least this is what I picked up on in the interviews, even if there's a sense that they might be going this way, he trusts the process so much that he's going to let it work because he's focused on this, right? He's not worried about the results. We are always so worried about the results in the education system that it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater problem, right? Anyway, I just had to share this because, again, I was doing a lesson in the Zoom, and I actually kind of gave this speech, and I said, hey, did you see that game last night? Or this is what I learned from it. And I realized, man, this is an important video to make because it is so relevant to our mindset and how we seem to be unable to see the bigger picture because data and school years also, it's all about this idea of everything's got to fit within this structure that we've created versus what process that if we teach consistently is going to actually give a greater outcome. It's the compound effect. I mean, I've referenced this in a lot of other things, but anyway, I just thought this is so important to share. And again, my hope is that if you stumble upon this, there's some insight that I've given you there or something to just think about because we've got to be free thinkers. We've got to start thinking about how things can be improved, right? Maybe going from good to better to best, right? I don't know. That's my mantra. I have a lot of mantras, but everything I do, I strive to figure out how to go from good to better to best. Like there's a lot of great systems. There's a lot of good systems. There's even a lot of great systems, right? And I want to learn everything I can from the good and the great systems. I don't want to learn from a bad system. Let's just be honest, right? And results speak, right? But there's something about learning and finding that thing that's like, what is the best system? Now, let's be very clear. There's not going to be just one best system, all right? Okay? Because here's the other thing. Sorry, no one can recreate Nick Saban's system because they're not Nick Saban, right? The problem also happens when we try to say, okay, that's it. That's the best system. Like I couldn't do his system. I'd have to develop my system. And that's kind of what my channel is about is I know there are better ways to approach this and there's better general things that we could think about in the education system. And the reality is if someone came to me and said, how would you do it? I know exactly what I would do. That does not mean, unfortunately, that would work in every instance. I'm self-aware enough to know that. But if it's my system and it's whatever my sphere of influence or whatever I'm able to control, whether it's in my band room classroom, my private French horn studio, whether it's my colleagues who would have discussions with me like this, I know what I would do, period. Like there's no question in my mind. I have an answer in the education system for how I would do anything. Will it work for everyone? Probably not. Okay. Because we all have, we'd have to all have the same path. We'd all have to have the same, common frames of reference. We probably have to have some of the same experiences in life to have the same beliefs. But the point I would be is if each individual teacher truly knows their value, truly knows their system, right? And can articulate it, can just say, this is why I do it. I can guarantee that our overall education system will get better. Okay. It might go from good to better, good, better, best. It might go to best, right? But sorry. So I think that's an important distinction. I want to be, because I'm not saying that we need to look at Nick Saban's thing and just, cookie cutter it and say, this is how it should be, right? We have to find what works for us individually, or maybe building wise or district wide, right? Because we all have different things. That's another reason we don't want I don't believe we don't want the federal government mandating this. Now we do have to have standards. I get that too, right? Because think about Nick Saban's process. If he's process oriented, it's standards oriented. This is the standard we live at, right? This is the standard. If your standard's here, that's as far as you can go. If your standard's here at the highest level, and that's what you demand and say, we're going to meet this day in and day out, the process, right? And you focus on the little habits and you're consistently doing it consistently, this is achievable. If you let little things go, and I think that's the difference. That's the message I heard. Is Nick Saban will not let the little things go. You better do it right. Okay. Hold yourself accountable. I'll hold you accountable. Let's grow together. Let's do it. Anyway, so I hope that all made sense. I don't know if you can't tell, there's passion in my voice on this one. So, all right, have a great day or a great evening whenever you watch this. And don't forget, consistent effort over time equals success.